you're doing something that I haven't seen any other builders do, but you're creating a connection.
We are all about building great relationships. And so I've got a young family. We have no want or need to be leaving Yarraville anytime soon. So I want to be able to walk down the street with my head held high when the neighbours are popping out and I've built their house. I don't want to be looking down hoping they don't tell me they got, a hairline crack somewhere. I want them to be, proud and happy to be seeing me. And
G'day guys, welcome back to another episode of Level Up. We are back in the shed for another cracking episode today. Today's one, we're going to be talking all about mental health, business development, and personal development. And today I've got an awesome guest for you. He's a cracking bloke. He's been a member of our Elevate community for quite a while now, and he's had some massive improvements. So big warm welcome to Anthony from Duayne Constructions. How are you, buddy?
yeah, good mate. Thank you for having me. I must admit it's a bit of a bucket list here being here, so I really appreciate you having me on.
Mate, I appreciate you flying all the way out from Melbourne to have a chat. So we're doing a group one after this. We got the Godfather coming down from Gympie as well, so we're all going to have a chat. So that's pretty exciting. But mate, before we get into the juicy stuff, let's go back a little bit. How did it all start? How did you get into the building industry?
Yep. So I'm I'm a third generation carpenter. So my grandpa and my dad were both carpenters. Ever since, my first memories, I can remember smelling timber coming off my dad and him in khaki, and I just loved it. I was building, tree houses in the backyard on the apple tree when I was 4 or 5 years old with nails and, my old man's hammer, and I fell in love with it from an early age. And I don't know, deep down, I think it is sort of somewhat in my blood or in my genes. So from there, obviously went through school, started my apprenticeship quite soon after finishing school, and started a job there with a boss and a third-year apprentice. And I think I was with him for about 6 months, still getting paid. I think it was $250 cash. I think I asked about 7 times, when do I start school? And it was still coming and coming. And yeah, the first day I started on that apprenticeship, or what I thought was an apprenticeship, they had me holding, 8-meter wide trusses with the apprentice on the other side, and demanding me to stand on the top plate and walk them across. And I was petrified. And mind you, I was climbing up, double-story frames in the new estates in our area when I was in primary school. I love climbing, but holding a truss and trying to stand up at the same time, and years down the track, you actually realise you work well when you're working against each other, so it does work. But I remember scooting on the top plate and them just giggling at me whilst berating or hazing me. And so, yeah, I ended up giving up on carpentry. I had a really, pretty crap taste in my mouth, and I did some personal training, became qualified personal trainer. I was still playing footy throughout those years. I really enjoyed my football.
You did pretty well with your football, didn't you?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. If I was a foot taller and a bag full more talented, I could have made a really great career out of it. But I was lucky enough to get into the VFL, which is the one under the AFL, and from there get recruited to play in Queensland in their state league. So I was only playing down at Redland, Redland Bombers here. So, and the universe works in mysterious ways, and by being recruited to come up here, I ended up meeting my now wife, who was on holiday up here, and now we have 2 beautiful children, and the rest is history. But footy aside, leaving that apprenticeship was the best thing I could do, because it's sort of the way that the universe has worked. It's got me to here. But when I came back from Queensland with my partner at the time, which was Pearce, who I've now married, I then went to work with my dad, who was a chippy, who worked for a builder. And I still wanted to be a carpenter, but I didn't like the builder I worked for at the time. And I knew it couldn't be like that. I knew that wasn't everyone's story. And Dad took me on under the guise of the builder. And I think for my first year, I was pretty much sweeping the floor and watching and being told that I'm not doing things right even if I was sweeping. I remember he was telling me to push, not pull, or vice versa. And I was like, the dirt's still moving. Like, I'm getting what I need to get done. But Dad was one of those, and still is, one of those incredible craftsmen. He really loved what he did, to the point, I remember we had, we've got all these fancy bubbles and lasers now, to put a door jamb in. And we had everything there, and we're like, it's good to go. And Dad still wouldn't believe it. And so he got his plumb bob out, had that going down to be able to measure off. And it's that kind of quality control and, it's a little bit old school, but pride in his work that thankfully.
Some listeners wouldn't even know what a plumb bob is, mate.
Yeah, well, if I didn't work with my old man, I don't think I would have either. But like, he still has all his chisels from when he was an apprentice. Like, I'm talking no more than an inch little snub on it still. And so yeah, I had some great years with Dad before the builder went quiet, and then I went to another builder. I went as a third year to a company called Appetite for Construction. Met them through the footy club I was playing at the time. The coach's friend was one of the directors, and Nick and Ed there, they were amazing. And that's where I really sort of catapulted into running jobs and really started to love the craft. And, I was at second half of my third year apprenticeship, and they, threw me a set of plans and said, this is your job, look after it. And, give us a call if you have any questions. And the poor buggers, thankfully they were paying my phone bill, because I just called them all the time, because I just didn't want to, excuse the language, but I didn't want to fuck it up. But it was the best way and quickest way that I could learn and grow, which is what I'm doing here, throw myself in the deep end. And so I have so much admiration. I'm still really great mates with both of them. We actually just had, we were subbing with for them the last little while, because we had a job that fell through, so we had a hole to fill. And it's that kind of relationship that you create with great people, and never burn bridges. And so that's sort of where I learnt my craft, and then one thing led to another, and I sort of went out on my own.
That's awesome, mate. Yeah. There's so much just we could unpack in that what you've just talked about for the last 5-10 minutes. Like, relationships are everything, hey, in business. Like, I'm a big believer that you shouldn't burn any bridges. Like, and the fact that you've been able to go back now and fill a gap with someone that taught you, like, just shows how important relationships are. Cause, otherwise you would have to been finding something to keep your team going for the time being. But like, what's like going out on your own? Like, how did you go from that step from being a carpenter to taking the punt to go and start your own business?
I think I love the podcast, and so it's actually how I first found out about Live Life Build, which I'm a part of now and have been for 2 years. But the stories that I hear on here is very similar to mine, which is I am and was a great carpenter. I could run a job. I could make someone else money, but when I went out, and so initially I went out on with a business partner, Maddie, who was actually an apprentice at the same place. Maddie and I were together for a little bit before he was moving to Tassie. So then that was initially under his license, and then I became licensed and had my own sole director of the company. But I didn't know my numbers, and so we have an incredible rapport and relationship with all our clients that we've built for. I'm lucky enough to build, certainly now, predominantly within 5, no more than 8 Ks from where I live. But there's 7 or 8 beautiful houses around my area that I renovated that we didn't make any money on. And the only way that we continued was because I was still on the tools and I just put the extra hours in. And that's not the client's fault. And they obviously want to only pay, well, at this period in time, they just wanted to pay as minimal as possible to get as much as they can, which is, it's what's standard for a lot of people. And me not knowing my numbers, if I needed to shave some money off to get the job, I did it back then, and not knowing the consequences, not knowing what an overhead was. So I learnt, pretty quickly that I didn't have a clue what I was doing as far as the business side of things was.
There's a lot of people out there. Like I'm the same. I can drive past jobs we did in the early days that they, they basically got a free house.
Yeah.
Like it cost like I paid for the house.
Yeah. Yep. And again, whether it be like, I love my self-help self-help. What am I trying to say? I love my audiobooks to professionally and personally develop myself. That's my go-to niche, which again is what I love about Live Life Build. We have mindset coaches. Everything that we're learning is not only bettering our business, but it starts with bettering ourselves. And so my mindset and mantra around these errors and continued challenges that we have that pop up running a business is that we either win or we learn. Sometimes the cost of those learning is a little bit more than what you'd like, but I was sort of reflecting on it yesterday, thinking about what I'd talk about here. And people go to uni, they have a huge HECS debt. They might start their career and then realize that they don't like it. We theoretically get paid to learn on site. Then if we, God forbid, want to go to become a builder and run a business, there's still a price to pay at times. And thankfully, I don't want to be, going over at the same time, but continuously. But Live Life Build is an avenue for people to learn so they don't have to make the same mistakes that a lot of other builders have. And certainly for me, if I was able to start some coaching, business coaching earlier, I would have absolutely had a lot more money in the bank. But that is the cost of the education that I had at the time. And I sit here today knowing that I've never made the same mistake twice. And so for that, it is a learning. And so it also becomes a win. And even just that mindset in itself has been able to pick me up off the ground when you think you've finally nailed it and worked it out. And then there's just, the universe just goes, you still got a little bit to learn, and throws you one more little curveball. You just got to have that mindset to keep on going.
That's a really good way of thinking about it.
Yeah.
And it's all to do with the words we use and the stories we tell ourselves. Hey, like that's what life's all about. If you're telling yourself shit stories all the time, your life's going to be pretty shitty. But if you change your wording and the stories you tell yourself, who knows what can happen. But you're very aware of what goes on. So in our Elevate program, and this is definitely not a sales pitch, this podcast for Elevate, but we do what we call Friday wins, and Anthony definitely does some of the best Friday wins. But I always love your Friday wins. Like, you're very aware of what has either gone on or what you're working on or what you need to do to improve something. And I think that's something that a lot of people, I don't know if it's an ownership thing or a responsibility thing. They don't want to be aware of it, or they choose not to be aware of it. I'm not sure, but I think the fact that you're very aware of things has definitely helped your growth.
Yeah.
Because you know what you need to focus on.
I've been blessed, like, with an incredible family. My mum is one of, like, I'll happily put my hand up and say I'm a mummy's boy. I have been throughout my life. I'm the youngest of three boys, and I knew how to play the game to make sure I got what I wanted. And mum knew what she was doing, but we just, we love each other. I was her baby. I still am her baby. And I guess being around someone who is so empathetic to the nth degree and would do anything for anyone else before they do it for themselves, that's bled into me. And it is a beautiful trait. Sometimes it comes with its challenges in that you may overthink things and overthink how other people are feeling, and it can affect you because it's sort of, you start feeling the load of what they might be taking. But it's also a bit of a superpower, because that empathy and authenticity towards other people's challenges means that you can connect with them and try to help them without trying to be a rescuer. But it does help me connect with other people, and it's through seeing how my mum's been able to do it. And so going to the Friday wins, like, I've seen from my first video we would have put up, or I would have put up on Facebook, to now, it's chalk and cheese. Like, I was a nervous wreck, which is much probably like when I started this podcast, and hopefully I'm warming into it.
You're fine, mate. You're fine.
But I find it, I don't know if cathartic's the right term, but to be able to discuss to my little camera that I know is going to all the members how my week's been. Sometimes there's incredible wins that are super exciting, and sometimes the wins just getting through the week that I thought was going to be hell, and we've got through to the other side, and I've got another weekend with my family before I have another crack. But I also found through repetition and being open and vulnerable that I had other members connecting with me and saying, thanks very much for that, because that really, resonated with me. And it's nice to know that I'm not the only one going through those challenges. And like, that's why I became a member of Live Life Build, because I saw someone like yourself saying that, you had a big carpentry crew and were running a business, but it was a shit show in your own words. And sadly, that's where I was too. But it was because I didn't understand. I didn't know how to run a business, and that is my own fault, but I didn't know where to look. There was nothing thrown down my throat that I needed to know. I
don't know if it's your fault. Like, we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
Like, and if you've spent your whole schooling and more importantly, I guess the early days of your career around other people that don't know what they don't know, it's very hard to break that cycle. And that's why I just take my hat off to everybody now that can see that there's better opportunities and better ways to do things. But probably the biggest thing I'd take my hat off to people like yourself is how vulnerable you are. Because like we've talked about it on plenty of other podcasts, when you're vulnerable, shit changes.
Yeah.
Like if you're stuck in that old fashioned, and I guess to go back to the footy, like, is it hard to be vulnerable coming up from a sporting background where you're around blokes all the time? And like, I imagine vulnerability isn't something that's talked about in the bloody change rooms.
Yeah, look, it's a good question. At the heart of it, and I don't want to sound arrogant. I really don't want to sound arrogant. I was lucky enough to be reasonably talented at what I did, certainly in the clubs that I played at. And so that gave me a bit of respect around the people that I played with. I took that as that's how I was on the field, but off field, I didn't play a character. I was who I was, and I've always been someone who is open and honest. And if I see something that's not right, or someone being downtrodden, I'll look to make sure that they're all right. The part of footy that I didn't enjoy, certainly later on when it became a bit more of a job for me, was that whole sort of bogan, we play footy and then we go and get pissed and it's whoever's, doing the stupidest things. I was a kid and that was fun at a certain point, but then I grew up and I'm not better than anyone else, but that wasn't me anymore. And sometimes in a footy culture, that is the culture, and that's just how it stays. And so you get left out because you're not doing what they're doing. And I was okay with that. So I'd play footy, have my little, connections that I have there, and then I'd be out of there. I wouldn't be hanging around. And so I got what I needed to out of footy, which was being able to express myself physically. But I guess, the whole culture around certain clubs and, the negative connotations about it, I didn't need to be around that. And so I just removed myself and just found my people.
Again, very aware, mate. You know what's going on.
I'm getting old. I'm nearly 40 now, so I'm starting to reflect a little bit more.
Yeah, but back to the vulnerability thing. Like,
yes.
It's not easy to do, like especially for blokes.
Yeah.
So how do you? What makes you comfortable enough to be vulnerable with people?
There's a few things. One, it is just who I am. As a kid, I couldn't stay at other people's houses in primary school. I'd get homesick. Daytime was beautiful. As soon as it got nighttime, I feel violently ill. I need to get home, which is sadly hilarious because it's happening in my family now as well. Like our kids are the same. So I couldn't hide that emotion. That emotion just bubbled out of me. I didn't have the ability to mask. And so I thought that was a real weakness of mine. If someone was abusive to me at school, whether it be a fight, an argument, my eyes would well up, I'd bubble and like the emotion came out. Fast forward, 10, 15 years, I've realized that vulnerability and lack of being able to have a poker face, if you will, or mask, is like, that is my strength, and that's my ability to connect with people. And like, to answer your question, how has it come about? I don't know. Like, I'm one of three boys. I've been brought up in an incredible family, a hardworking family. My mum's side, like, we were all able to chat. My mum especially. My mum would be very open. My dad was quite closed off. As he became a granddad, he really softened, which has been great to see. But he was the hardworking dad that made the money, and then would come home, and it was mum's job to look after us, and then, to keep us three boys in a private school, or a Catholic school. She had to work as well. Like, it was tough during our primary and secondary school years for our parents, and I was oblivious to it. I was the youngest of three, still swindling to get whatever I wanted at Kmart when I was home, and pretending to be sick so I'd have a day off just to spend with mum. And yeah, since becoming a parent, I know I'm sort of going off at a tangent, but since becoming a parent, running a business and having a mortgage, like, I think as soon as we had my daughter Edie, our firstborn, I had like a light bulb moment, just an incredible, more gratitude for my parents and understanding of how much they sacrificed for us. And it's sad that it took me to become a father to say that, but like, yeah, they're my, they're my guardian angels in a way. Like, I wouldn't be who I am without them. So, I don't know where it comes from. I'm really grateful and wrapped that I am this way. I wasn't when I was a kid, and it's only through being open and vulnerable to the right people, that I've understood that it is something beneficial and that I'm proud of.
Yeah, well, I guess what you just said then, to the right people.
Yeah.
And it's like, you see a lot of vulnerability in our community, in the Elevate community, and I'm super proud of that, because it means that it's a safe space for people. Because you're right, like, if you're vulnerable in front of the wrong people, it can make a bad situation a lot worse.
Yeah, absolutely.
So making sure you're surrounding yourself with the right people, because vulnerability is a big thing, and whether it's with our wives, our kids, our people in our business or whatever, like, a lot comes out of being vulnerable.
Yeah.
There's a lot of progress on the other side.
Yeah.
You've just got to find that opportunity, I guess, to be vulnerable in the beginning, to allow that progress to come through.
Yeah. And like, our group, my team, on-site team, are awesome. We've got a really good little thing going at the moment, and we again, through Live Life Build, I've learnt to create a good culture. That there's a lot of different gamuts, and one of them is to understand what their goals are. Like, we sort of work through what our team values are, what their values are as just people. And feedback, when I was telling the boys that I was going to be on your podcast, the overwhelming feedback was to just be yourself. Like, the reason, like, we call it leading teams in the footy field, where you'd have someone sit out the front and everyone would ask you questions and, let you know how you can improve things. And I'd take that into my working role and ask the boys for constructive criticism and how I can better myself for the business. This was a few months ago, and the feedback was just keep being yourself, just be you, like, stick to being you. And that's pretty powerful and pretty awesome.
Sure.
And also great to have a team that respect me in that way, and not because I'm the boss, but because they respect me as a person. So yeah, it was pretty special, and it's pretty easy to do, to be yourself. Yeah, there's only one person doing it, so
Teams are really important, mate. And I know you're pretty proud of your team. It's something you mentioned it quite a bit in your Friday wins.
yeah.
But like, how do you attract? Like, a lot of people want to know, how do you attract the right people to work in your business? Like, what have you done since you've started to build that team?
I think the first thing for us, and the most important thing in our hiring, is to work out if they're a good person, like what their values are, more so than their skill set. Especially maybe if it's a specific role, that would be how you weigh, their skill base up. But for us, it comes down to, like, do they have a good moral compass? Are they good human beings? And we can do the rest. And so all our employees that we have now, I've either known previously in some way or another, so met them outside of work before we had hired them, or a couple of them have actually come from another local business who do a lot more volume renovations in our area, but it's their methodology versus ours, and so they had seen how we were building, that we were trying to raise the bar and the standard of how we build, not to the NCC, but our standard, which is above, and that's what made them want to come over, because they want to become better and better themselves as well as their skills. And so I guess for me, it's been partially through our, loosely call it marketing, but what I put up on Instagram, which is just what we're doing and how we do it.
You do. For anyone that wants to see some good marketing stuff, go and check out Anthony's Duayne Construction Instagram page, because, mate, again, to come from where you were, I don't know, what, 18 months ago, 2 years ago, to now
2 years
doing, what do you call them? You do
questions that absolutely nobody asks. I actually need to get back on it. I've got one that I've filmed because someone did ask a question, and it was actually my father-in-law. So shout out to Mark and apologies, but it's a ripping question, and I think I answered about 7 times. And the Godfather, I kept sending it to our A-team group. So we've got a group in Live Life Build where, because we've got such a great amount of members, we break up into sort of 8 to 10 people, and then we can connect with each other on like our WhatsApp group. And I kept sending it over because I wanted them to critique it before I put it, to the masses of all my fans. and Craig, the Godfather, kept having, little things that I might have slightly said that could have been tweaked a bit better. And I think I got to the 7th one. I was like, I'm going to come back to this. And then I just never sent it. So watch this space. I'll wait until this podcast comes out, maybe.
Yeah, but they're cracking little videos. Like I think they're great, mate. Like you're breaking the ice. You're educating people. Like that's
It is great. And like, honestly, I've always been a bit cheeky, like in my environment, like certainly with footy, I was confident with what I did, and that exuded into everything I did around that area. Becoming a builder and landing flat on your face time and time again, it sort of cut away at my confidence in that field. And so like being on something like this today was just terrifying, and it'd be like I'm about to be found out. But through being a part of Live Life Build, understanding what other builders across Australia are doing and the challenges they go through, and how it is reflective of mine, and just continually learning and growing and implementing bit by bit, has created this confidence in me in this industry, which is an ever-changing industry that you need to keep constantly learning and growing from. But I guess I haven't really thought of it. I do seem to enjoy.
I love them, mate. I think they're fantastic. I haven't, like, I probably need to go back to your main page and just have a look at all of them. But anyone that pops up, I make sure I check it out multiple times. Like it's like, again, it's creating. You're doing something that I haven't seen any other builders do, but you're creating a connection. Like, because people are going to see that, then they're going to go, shit, this bloke's awesome. Yeah. Like, I want to build with this bloke because he's got a bit of sense of humor about him. Like, and through those videos, you can pick up the type of person you are and your type of personality. And I just think it's great. Like, more builders that's the separation we need in our industry. Like, instead of this race to the bottom for cheapest price, which brings me back to, you just mentioned before, you're building to your standard, not the NCC. And it's something I'm really passionate about, and I want more builders and more tradies as well, probably more tradies than anything, to understand, like, we need to set our own standards. Yeah. Don't just, like, the NCC should be the absolute bare minimum worst case scenario.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be something you're trying to achieve. So how are you, because obviously to build your standard more than likely costs more.
Yes. How
are you selling that to your clients?
Well, it's education. It's purely letting them know, like, and our standards, our quality is top notch. The guys that work for me are amazing. And every time I have my site meetings, and the clients are wrapped with things, I take minimal to no credit for it, because they're the team doing it. Our standards is we're steering clear of using any anti-con blankets. So our biggest part of our standard is our cavity batten system, and our WRB. So, I only renovated my house just under 10 years ago, and we've got our, I think we mightn't have put foil wrap on at the time, thank God, but it was the initial sort of class 4, it might have been a class 3 at the time, WRB, weatherboards on the outside, just nailed straight through it. I insulated all the walls, all the ceilings, but didn't do the floor because it wasn't a thing at the time. Like the builds that we didn't have the insulation on the floor required, let alone specified. So our standards now is to make sure that we are completely enclosing the house with a really high quality WRB.
What are you using?
Well, we use, depends. So we've got Pro Climber is our number one. And if we can afford to do it on projects, that's what we'll use. But there are other class 4 WRBs out there that are very high standard. We actually have our rep Jack from Bowen's took us through their store and went through all the different WRBs that they've got there and told us the price point difference, but what also the difference is in the quality. So there is still an ability to use a really great class 4 WRB without having to use Pro Climber. But in saying that, Pro Climber is always our number one go-to. So between that and our cavity batten system, it means you're basically giving yourself a second layer, probably the most important layer, to keep moisture and water out of your house before any roof or cladding system. So for us, water ingress is like 80, not 90% of all issues that builders face. If we can mitigate that like before we've even cladded the house or plastered the house, plus it also helps us speed up the build, because once we've got a good WRB on top of the roof, theoretically we could be insulating and plastering inside. It's a no-brainer for us.
What are you using for your cavity battens?
What timber?
Yeah.
So we're still just ripping down our pine. So there's a bit of a argument between do you use treated pine or normal pine? And I've been
What side of the fence you on?
Well, I don't know yet. We're happy to use currently we're happy to use just standard MGP 10 because sometimes treated pine can react to the cladding that you use on the outside, and so you don't want to have that as an issue. So there's pros and cons to both, and it's a little bit of a rabbit hole, and it's funny as a builder what we get into and what rabbit holes we go down. But what's your opinion? I'd love to know what yours is.
Oh, look,
making me nervous.
I'm definitely no expert. We're sticking to the treated.
Yeah.
Like, so we're ripping down the 90 by 19 reeded decking.
Yes.
We stick to the treated. Like termites are terrible up here. So
Yeah.
to me, that's my number one reason for it, because if termites can bridge or get in there somehow, like the first thing they're going to take out is those battens.
Yeah.
But I also use it just like treated pine stands up a lot better to moisture, and like theoretically that's the cavity where we're trying to prevent moisture getting into the building, so there still is a chance that there's going to be moisture within that area.
Yeah.
So by using treated timber, I'm hopefully mitigating my risk of any rot or anything in that timber. But and then like it's a really good point that you brought up. Like you do have to check on the types of cladding you're using, because obviously treated timber does react with some claddings.
Yeah.
So there is a lot to know with it.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm no expert, but I'm really, really keen, and just every day reaching out to people on Instagram, asking questions, reaching out to suppliers, because just like you, that our bare minimum standard now is the Pro Climber wrap, the cavity batten system. I just think it's a no-brainer. Once you understand why you're doing it and how it all works, it's an absolute no-brainer.
Yeah, and it's interesting because the rabbit holes we're going down. I became a passive house trained tradesman last year, which is one of those things that when you start to learn to that degree of the importance of just building better and healthier. There's so many things that you can take out of that you'll never forget. Whether or not we'll build a passive house, I'm not sure, but the importance of the WRB and understanding how to make an airtight home, and then the importance of then, if you are making an airtight home, to be looking at mechanical ventilation and how that will make the home healthier for a long time for the people who are occupying it. It's all that knowledge that is only going to benefit not only myself but the clients.
So how do you sell it to your client? Because it does cost more. Like that whole system costs more.
Yeah, so for us to as in to sell the airtightness side of things, or
Well, just like your process. So you're using the better wraps, you're using the cavity batten system. Like it's more material, it's more labor, it's more costs. So how are you? Do your clients know that you're doing that, or how are you marketing that to them?
absolutely. So like we were saying, I do post things on Instagram. I'm not really tactical as such, as it's very sort of off the cuff as far as what we're doing on the job site. I'll just let people know and maybe try and do a little bit of a laugh or funny spin on it. But in our pre-construction, so we are at a point now where we don't engage any clients or won't engage with them unless they work through our pre-construction, which is huge. We're talking 2 years ago or 2.5 years ago. I was tendering work and just cutting any profit possible out just to keep people working, like keep my team working. And to fast track 2 years on, and we've currently got our biggest project, which is about to start in the next week or two. We have another 2 projects going on. We're all through pre-construction, and then we're up to 6 in our pack process at the moment. So
that's awesome, mate. Yeah, I'm super proud of you.
Yeah, thank you. It's and I started not believing that anyone would even. Why would anyone want to pay me to be a part of the design stage and listen to me? But that's where we educate them. So we explain to them how we build and why we build, and the importance of what we're doing and the reasons for it, and acknowledging that it does cost a little bit more. But the reality is the longevity of the home and the quality of the build means that it's not a 25-year-old renovation. This is going to last the test of time for the time that you're there. Because again, building in a local area, like we're in the inner west of Melbourne, in Yarraville, the biggest project that we've done to date, which is about to start, they're 2 doors down from my house. So that'll be the 6th house that we've renovated on my street. The street's not more than 300, maybe 350 meters long.
Mate, that is a testament to obviously yourself and your quality.
Yeah, and I think it's also like my team's role and my role is to not only create an incredible space for the clients and build an incredible product, but we are all about building great relationships. And so I've got a young family, beautiful Edie, age 6, and Lenny's 3. We have no want or need to be leaving Yarraville anytime soon. So I want to be able to walk down the street with my head held high when the neighbours are popping out and I've built their house. I don't want to be looking down hoping they don't tell me they got a hairline crack somewhere. I want them to be proud and happy to be seeing me, and up to date. We're at this point, we are still there, and that's our goal every time we build.
That'd be pretty cool feeling to walk down the street and have your young kids going, "Oh, did you build that house, Daddy?"
Oh, yeah,
awesome.
My little boy Lenny is like, the apple didn't fall far from the tree, and it reminds me of me when I was with my dad at his age. He comes on site and OH&S, work health and safety. I make sure everything's safe, and he's got his boots on and he's always with me, but he has to come and see what we're up to and where we're at. So, after everyone's out, finished for the day, like, the boys love him. He's up there all the time, and they sort of, give him a bit of stick, and he loves it. And he'll come on site, see what's going on. And I can see in him, he wants to be like his dad, which is what I did, and it's pretty special. Like, it's
unreal.
And I need to be present, because I sometimes, with life, things are pressing. We've got a trade coming, so this has to be done. But then as I'm leaving, to get to site, Lenny is saying something to me, and I know if I keep cutting him and shutting him out, it's going to kill his potential dream to do what I'm doing or be a part of the industry. And so I'm in a very advantageous position where
There's that awareness again, mate. Like
uh,
you're just full of awareness.
yeah, so well, thank you. It is like I'm in an advantageous position where our jobs are close to home. I can help out with drop off and pickups. I am being the dad that I wanted to be. At times, I can still get, slip up and be not present when I need to be on my phone waiting for an email or something. And there's always room for improvement. But like we do a lot of in Live Life Build, reflecting back, like we talk about what a successful builder is. And certainly for us, we've struggled on the profit side of things, but we use our overhead calculator now, and like everything that we are tracking with our cost tracking, everything's looking like it's getting to where we want to get to, which is great. But all the other gamuts of it, like being able to be around for my kids while still juggling a business, being able to get off the tools, which I thought was the be all and end all.
Like that hasn't been hasn't been a long time, has it, since you got off the tools?
No.
Because I know when you first signed up, that was a big goal of yours. That you're struggling with that transition.
And you know what's funny? So I've done that. I've got an incredible supervisor. We sort of have a supervisor / leading hand / foreman. That's our role, which is what I did at Appetite, and I loved. So Mark's come on. Shaki, he was my apprentice, is now qualified. He's taking on more responsibility, and so I've been able to step back. But I was only with the boys, I think it was last Friday, digging trenches in the rain, in the mud. Actually, I tell a lie. It wasn't raining yet. It was the week after. So it was dry. It was hard. I had a whole day there. I was meant to come back at lunchtime to relieve my wife so she could go and do some stuff. But I was having too much fun. And so I had to call it in. I stayed with the boys and dug all day. And what it's reminded me is I still need that. I still need that sort of connection with the team and being on site. And my enjoyment is doing things with my hands. That's why I got into building. That's why I became a carpenter. And so moving forward, as we've got these jobs starting, my goal is to spend a day with each apprentice on each job site. So we've only got 2 apprentices. One's just about to start, which will be the second. And yeah, my goal is to help the supervisors be able to take a little bit of pressure off them so they can be building and not have to completely hold hands. And so I can then also train the apprentices how I would like to. And I then also get to be on site with the boys and have a bit of banter. And how I've been able to do that is, again, overhead calculator. And Ryan from Lockspec has been a great help. I've put on VA. So Ryan and I job share a VA who does our estimating.
That's pretty cool.
And so estimating for me, computers in general are something that I'm quite slow at. Probably should have paid a little bit more attention at school, but alas, I just needed my login and that's all I needed at the time. So they've been really helpful. We've got Duayne out in the Philippines and he is killing it and he's so clever, smart. He's made a huge difference in freeing up time for me to be able to do that. So yeah. It's funny, I had this goal of getting off the tools and then realised that my happiness was when I was there.
Yeah. And I think that's a really important point because like I try and stress to builders or tradies, like you structure your business however you like.
Yeah.
But like there is a point there where you've got to get off the tools to get the growth, but ultimately the growth should be setting your business up for you to have the role that suits you the best, that you're most efficient at, that you enjoy doing. Because if you're in a business and you're not doing what you enjoy doing, sooner or later you're going to lose your passion, you're going to hate it.
Yeah, and that was happening to me because I was feeling disconnected from my team because I was in the office all the time doing proposals. Like then I'd be going out. I love going to site meetings with clients. I love going to meet potential clients to try and make a connection. I'll continue to do that. And I want to have 2 days on site. And so that's what I'm now gearing things toward. And yeah, it's by putting people in places to do things more efficiently than me and more cost effective so that I can be more value elsewhere and bring more value to the company, which is pretty cool. But playing with it. I'm playing with the company.
Yeah. it's awesome. I'm super super proud of you. It's bloody I get so much joy out of, mate, of like s- nearly every member that's ever been in Elevate. I can remember like where I was when they first reached out or called me,
Yeah.
or where I made first contact with them, and it just, yeah, it gives me immense joy just thinking back to like, holy shit, like to have that conversation we had back here, and now to be able to sit here with you now, and you're rattling all this business stuff off, and
Yeah.
it's just fucking
It's
awesome.
surreal, isn't it? And
I love it.
like, not to, take it down a dark path, but I became, I started with Launchpad because it was my last ditch attempt. I kept, making mistakes, fumbling, losing money. I'm a catastrophizer at the best of times. So, like, when one bill comes in, I think I'm going to lose the house. And it's rewiring my brain there. And it's like a muscle. You go to the gym, as you keep doing it, you get stronger and more resilient. And, but yeah, starting with Launchpad, there was a huge amount of aha moments. And, I'm so blessed to have continued on with Elevate. The reason that I knew I had to do something was I had a dear friend of mine who became a registered builder when I became a registered builder about the same time. And so, as we initially started picking up work, one of us would be busy and the other one wouldn't. So we'd chop and change and help each other out labor wise. When I first had my first job, that's where I first was introduced into the feelings of anxiety and overwhelm. Prior to then, I don't know how I did it, but other than being nervous for an oral presentation at school, I was pretty chilled and everything sort of just fell into place. The universe just worked for me. And then all of a sudden, my first job, I had a client who was overseas while we were renovating their laundry and bathroom. And I was getting phone calls and emails like at 3 or 4 in the morning. And apologies, I didn't know the time frame difference, even though they were born in Melbourne. So, anywho, I was triggered. I thought I had to reply then and there. And I remember just not sleeping for a few days, not eating. I thought I'd fried my brain because I'd never experienced anything like that before. And so I went through a huge amount of, again, we talk about vulnerability and being open. I couldn't bottle that up and hide it from anyone. Like, it was written on my forehead. I was struggling. Within a day or two, I'd seen a doctor to get a referral to see a psychologist. The first psychologist was a lot about the science behind it, and that didn't really connect with me. And the second psychologist I saw was like a mum, like, warm, loving, caring. And so I connected, of course. And Sandra's been my psychologist for the best part of nearly 10 years now. And she's been incredible. She doesn't want to see me anymore. And so I just keep peppering her because I like to go in and get a tune up.
I was just going to say, I think one thing that I've got out of you is we've got to treat ourselves just like we do our cars.
Yeah.
Like, don't go and see a psychologist just when you're in the bad moment. Like,
Yeah.
go and get a tune up.
Yeah. Get a, what do we call it? A mental health net positive. So, while things are good, that's when you can work on stuff that you wouldn't usually. Yeah, but going back to the car side, I'm terrible at looking after my car, so that doesn't really work for me. I couldn't tell you the last time I've checked my oil or water. Um, but yeah, so that's been a great journey for me, and it's been like a grind initially, but like what I thought was the thing that was going to break me was where I've drawn the greatest strength from, and like it's from a point from there is where I really grew into the person I am. Because up until then, I hadn't trained that. I'd never had a great deal of I guess I didn't have resilience in that field, in the um, mental health side of things, because I'd never been truly challenged in that way where everything was going to land on me and it was me, that was responsible. And so thankfully, through being vulnerable, I was able to seek help. And this builder mate of mine, he had some struggles also through his first job. And I was trying to be a voice of reason for him and, be um, an ear to lend, or however you say it. And unfortunately, he took his own life
Oh,
on
no.
the job site.
Sorry to hear that, mate.
Yeah. And so having that be the case and feeling like I'd tried my best to help navigate it with him and point him in the right direction, it just showed me how dark it can get for some people. And so trying to reach out and actually better myself through the business side of things was a no-brainer for me, because I needed to try every avenue before I just called it quits and didn't do it anymore, because it was a huge risk that I was taking, considering I was going blind into it. I didn't actually know how to run a business. I knew how to build, but not run a business. And, I have an incredible network of friends and family. Like, my wife is my biggest rock and my biggest supporter. Obviously my parents, my uncle Bill, which I think I've spoken a fair bit on my videos. Like, he's been a footy mentor, a business mentor. He's just an incredible human being. And I've had all these people to lean on during my hardest times and really open up and let know what's going on. And I'm not sure if Damo had the personality to be able to do that. And so it bottled up a bit more in for him. And
it's a hard, the construction industry is a hard industry.
Yeah.
Like, really. I had a meeting with the guys from TX yesterday, and they were running through some stats of the people that are reaching out to them, and like the trades that they come from and the industries and all those types of things. And the construction industry is right up at the top.
Yeah.
And it was actually, and carpenters were number one.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't be like that. Like, we need to support each other. And again, I think it comes back to, it's a bloke thing. Like, you feel like you're a big boy, or girl, you've stepped out, you've started your own business. Like, you should be fine. Like, it's like, it's hard to, I guess, figure out that it's not your fault that you're not doing well, and it's okay to ask questions, or it's okay to reach out to other people in the industry, or it's okay to reach out to, like, the likes of TX and those types of people. Like, it's, again, you don't know what you don't know. And as you found out, like, it can happen on your very first job.
Yeah. Yep.
Like,
and Damo, my mate, we've got his initials on the back of all our singlets and tops. That was a conscious decision I made, like, straight away, because every time I wear a two-tone top, he's with me. It also gives my team an understanding that it's okay to not be okay, to be able to feel like, for me, it's very important to create a culture and a space where they feel like they can let me know what's going on, and if they need to take time off or anything, or if they want to just chew the fat, like, whether they like it or not. I go through so many scenarios, and I'm an oversharer, and I'm talking to them knowing that as the business owner, am I meant to be talking to you like this and talking about this? But it's who I am, and like, it lands with them well. And it is such an important, and it's not only men. Like, life's tough in general, and people just need to be able to let other people get things off their chest, and also people need to give people grace, because you never know what someone else is going through. And we're quick to judge and take we feel like upset, or someone's judged us a certain way, but there could be 1,000,001 different reasons how they got to that. And just everybody love everybody. That's a pretty good way to go.
Yeah, well, you can't make it personal. Like, people aren't, like, I do find it hard, even with like, employees taking days off and those types of things. Like, it's not always because they're sick or they're not feeling well. Like, you never know whether there's been an argument in the relationship, or they could be under, like, financial pressure. Like, you just never know what's going on with someone. And it's like, I'm pretty calm these days. Like, I wasn't in the early days, but I don't want to go off at someone or put someone in an even worse mood that's going to push them over the edge. So yeah, I'm probably similar to you, mate. Like, I do tend to overshare and probably try and step in a bit too much here and there, but I want to make sure my team on site is in, like, coming to work and enjoying their work. Like, if they are having pressures at home, financially or relationship wise or whatever, ideally I'd like work to be the place where they come to feel relaxed and comfortable, and the team can support them. Yeah. And it's not always easy. Like, you would know as a business owner, like, it's probably the hardest thing of running a business is trying to keep everybody on site. Yeah, like, the cogs turning all the time.
And everyone, we've been very lucky to do a disc profile recently to sort of understand, where my personality is, and then it made me understand potentially where some of the guys in our team, their personalities lie. And it's a constant juggle, being a parent, being a husband, and being a business owner. Like, you do feel like at times you're barely keeping the balls up, but you just got to try your best and make sure you try to keep those conversations going. And like for me, like you were saying before, me trying to get a few days back on the work site is because if I schedule things correctly, when I'm on site, theoretically, my phone doesn't have to be right there with me, which, if I'm of late, like I'm there, but I'm not there because I'm sending an email for something. And when we were just digging and we're digging all day or whatever we're doing on site, I just get in the zone. You get into that flow state and you just, it's everyone working towards a common goal, and there's just a energy about it that is, contagious, and I love it. So hopefully me doing a bit more with the boys, like they already have it, but I feel like I must be, the greatest of energies for them. So when I'm there, I really try and lift spirits and, a bit of kumbaya and just have a bit of fun at my expense. And then they realise that I'm an idiot. And
I reckon your job sites would be fun, mate. Just going by the stuff you put out on your Instagram would be pretty cool. It's mate, I guess what's some advice for people that are thinking about starting their own business, like going from your experience?
Yeah, definitely seek some professional help as far as coaching. And God, who knows, if you're struggling, seek professional help anyway. For me, my business has changed, and I personally have changed through getting coaching. It was all part of me, but it's opened doors and opened things up in me and given me the confidence to shine in certain areas that probably lay dormant or, was suppressed by having a few years of, we'll call it bad luck in the building industry. It's number one is just, educate yourself and look after yourself as well, because fitness is a big part of my life and certainly helps my mental side. So, I've got a list, as long as my arm, in my mental toolbox of, if I start to feel anxious and overwhelmed, number one thing that I do is go for a run. The endorphins I get after a run makes whatever overwhelm I have, at least diminished by 50%. So
can we talk about that for a minute? Like,
yeah,
having that tool, well, you said that like a toolbox to deal with that, because
yeah,
anxiety is huge. Like,
yeah. Look at me now. I'm comfy as. I might take your seat in a second. But you would have known when I came on here, I thought I was going to vomit when I first sat down. So
yeah, well, you couldn't have picked that. But like, so you said before that you, when you first experienced anxiety, you didn't know what it was.
yeah,
You thought you were frying your brain. So talk us through that, because I feel like a lot of people are probably dealing with anxiety and they're not quite sure what it is.
Yeah. So for me, it was just incessant, is that the right term? I just had voices in my head and they were all negative about not being able to. So a bit of context, the job, it was a bathroom, laundry reno. I climbed under there's a brick veneer home and thought I got to where the bathroom was. And I was doing pre-construction when I didn't even know what pre-construction was. It was just to price it up. And I thought I got to where the bathroom was. I saw some plumbing pipes and I was like, beautiful. It's a suspend, we had a subfloor under there. When we started the demo, we realized that it was a concrete slab and it was infill. So I'd never moved plumbing or had the plumbers move plumbing in a slab. So I thought it was going to not be possible and the world was ending. My plumber came, the next day and told me that it's all doable and this will be fine. It's a little bit slower. It won't be too much more. But my brain was still telling me that I can't finish this. Like, this is my first job and I've ruined everything. I'm going to lose the house. And it didn't matter what anyone told me, I wouldn't calm down. I was still getting chased by a tiger. And I'd never had that before, like a pretty rational person at most times. And I'm able to listen to people and none of it was landing. And that's when I knew there was a problem. And I'm not a terrible sleeper. I'm the opposite. I'm an incredible sleeper, much to the detriment of my poor wife wanting to watch a show on the couch because I'll be snoring, and I learned that from Dad. But I wasn't able to sleep for probably 2.5 days or 2 days in a row. And on the third days when I went and saw a doctor, I didn't eat, and it steamrolled really quickly for me, which in hindsight is a great thing because I had to action it straight away. It was not feasible for me to keep going down that route, or else I would have lost my marbles big time. So that's what it was for me. Now how it sort of bubbles up, I can start to feel that sense of overwhelm or lack of control. And usually it's when I'm projecting into the future what ifs. And for me, when I start getting into that headspace, I tend to start to work on my mental toolbox. So whether it be, not having any beers during the week. Sometimes if the footy for us in the AFL, they're playing footy on Thursday nights now. So it seems to be an excuse to start drinking a day earlier. But I know if I'm starting to be overwhelmed, the booze completely goes. I start eating healthier, and my big one's just exercise. Like I need to get that energy, that tension out of my body. And for me, running's been incredible to the point where, I've done it enough and dealt with anxiety enough. I've ran a few marathons, and it's a big part of my life. So
yeah, I think it's important like to speak about that sort of stuff because it's on a daily basis. Like I even know we've got a few members in our team that I know deal with bad anxiety, and I know they don't have steps in place to deal with it, and you can see them through the day just get worse and worse and worse. And it always worries me that they take that home. So yeah, I'm really grateful for you to speak about that, mate, and put it out there.
No, mate, it's super important, and that's only been, sort of by fumbling through and obviously seeking help with the psychologists. That they give you ideas, and then it's what you put in practice and what is something that you see value in. I guess it's like we're talking to a client, but what I enjoy most now in the live, life, build field is there's people that are coming in like where I was when I first started, and I never visualize myself as anyone different, and I'm not any different to any of the guys and girls that are in live, life, build. But for people to reach out to me for advice and let me know how they're going, that's huge now. Like for me to be any kind of leader to these guys who are also builders and feel like they're comfortable enough to ask me for assistance or opinion, that's awesome. Like that's a really humbling sort of feeling, and I'm really grateful that happens.
Well, you've put in you've put in the effort. Like you've implemented things. You've like consistency. I think is a massive thing, and like you've definitely been consistent. Like you show up all the time.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that gets overlooked. Like you've got to be consistent. You've got to implement what you're learning, and you've done both, and that's now showing because you've become a leader.
Yeah.
Like people look up to you.
Thank you. Again, going back to footy, I was an incredible leader. I should have been captain a few times and was pipped and was just vice captain at Redland over here. But no, it's great.
Do you think sports helps you become who you are now in your business?
100%. So that, and being the youngest boy of three, nothing was given to me except from mum. But on like playing cricket or footy, my brothers, I was a young little turd. They didn't want to be giving it to me, so I had to get the ball off them, and that put me in such good stead for playing bigger bodies from a young age. I forgot the question now.
How did footy help you? Has footy helped you become better in business?
Absolutely, yeah. So it's the part of understanding on a physical aspect. If I push harder than the other person, at some point they'll break before me, because I knew that I'd done the reps. Pre-season training, during training. So we'd train 2 nights a week, 3 nights a week if it was in the higher levels. And I'd get there early and go for a run beforehand. And so mentally I knew that whatever they did that day, I had done more. And so when that came out onto the footy field, I knew that regardless of how skillful and how talented the person that I was playing against was, I knew I could outgrind him. So I'd be running as hard as I could in the first quarter as I was in the last quarter. And that mentality has helped with business in the sense that, and certainly in Live, Life, Build, it's overwhelming how much information and knowledge there is in the platform. But if you just incrementally just work on little bits that you need in your business, and there's always things you can sharpen. When we do the 6P wheel, I just worked on the things that were glaringly obvious. And then once that was starting to look better, I worked on the next one. But as long as I kept working on things, I knew it was progressively getting better. And I learnt that through sport, like just hard work pays off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, I'm going to wrap it up on that, mate.
Geez, that landed well, didn't it?
Mate, look, I'm super proud of you. You deserve everything you're achieving. You put in the hard work. You're consistent. You show up. You're taking ownership. Like, I just think the world's your oyster, mate. Like, just keep smashing it out. So,
thank you. Thanks for having me.
No, it's been a pleasure, mate. I was like, seriously, we could keep talking for hours. But look, guys, thanks for listening. It's been another cracking podcast. So make sure you like, share, subscribe, all those things, so that we can continue to make this Australia's #1 construction podcast. Stay tuned. We'll see you on the next one.
Are you ready to build smarter, live better, and enjoy life? Then head over to livelikebuild.com/elevate to get started.
Everything discussed during the Level Up podcast with me, Duayne Pearce, is based solely on my own personal experiences and those experiences of my guests. The information, opinions, and recommendations presented in this podcast are for general information only, and any reliance on the information provided in this podcast is done at your own risk. We recommend that you obtain your own professional advice in respect to the topics discussed during this podcast.